So here's the task. Unless you sacrifice 2 of your pawns for free, that's when you're going to win. So what I'm saying is 7 different traps in 7 different openings where we sacrifice 2 pawns in order to win fast. If you want to learn more, let's have some fun. Trap number 1 in the Danish Gambit. So here you're playing white and you will start with e4. Then your opponents will respond with e5. I recommend going pawn to d4 right away. And oops, let me turn on the Lichess database for the satisfaction of your eyeballs. Yeah. As you can see in the Lichess database, e takes d4 is by far the top played move. I'm only showing you the top played moves, you guys, so you have all the reasons to like this video, subscribe if at all you haven't already. So e takes d4. I don't want you to take back. Just go pawn to c3, sacrificing the second pawn, even though you can take it back, but you are sacrificing the second pawn because you have no intention to take it back. And from here, you're going to see your opponents taking on b2 as well. That's the top played move. So simply take back with your bishop. And now you can see how beautifully your bishops are facing your opponent's king side. That's the idea. Now, once again, you can see bishop b4 is by far the top played move. After which you go knight c3. Then again, knight to f6 is what everybody plays, targeting your pawn on e4. Since your knight is pinned to the king. So what I suggest here is to sacrifice the third pawn. So you're basically allowing black to take your free pawn. You can't take back. Your knight is pinned to the king. So if this happens, just know that you have a huge advantage and almost winning. You just cast a shot, and believe it or not, black is still gonna take on c3. That's what you want. Now you take back with your knight, not your bishop. And again, you can see castle shot is the top played move, after which you now go knight d5, attacking the bishop. What do we see here? I mean, people don't listen. Bishop c5 is the top played move once again. And right in this position, you guys, it's time for you to start preparing to escort your friend back to his parents' home, as the game is over. I mean, you just go knight to f6. That's check. And a beautiful knight sacrifice as well. The best that black can do here is to surrender their queen. Queen takes f6. After which we're going to take with the bishop. So you'll see them play gf anyways. But this will be met very soon. Queen g4 check and king h8 only move. Then you go queen h4. Double attacking the f6 pawn. And again, you can see bishop e7 is what everybody plays, defending the f6 pawn. But it wasn't about the f6 pawn. It was about the h7 pawn. So there's actually no way for black to stop this mate in 2. Yes, I covered more about the Danish Gambit in the video that has popped up in the card above. A very interesting video that you guys are missing. Or you can find it in the comment section down below. I'm going to link all the videos that will be relevant for this study. But before I move on to the next trap, let me show you a few different lines that I didn't cover in my last Danish Gambit tutorial. So if black doesn't take with his g-pawn, and let's say they just play king h8, well, you can just simply go queen h5. And once again, if gf, you can simply go bishop d3, and black cannot stop this mate with his toes or his elbow. I mean, even if black plays pawn to h6, trying to stop the mate, you can simply go queen f5. You want to go queen h7 checkmate next. If g6, you simply go queen f4. Now you want to take, if g5, you simply go back, and there's no real way for black to stop the mate. Well, another line that I didn't cover in my Danish Gambit is where black doesn't take on e4. I mean, after bishop b4 check, you block with a bishop, then they play knight to f6, and you sacrifice the third pawn. So this time, you won't see black taking on e4. Maybe they are familiar with the traps that I just showed you. So the top played move here is castle shot, as you can see. Well, here I just recommend that you do the same. And now they can't even take the pawn on e4 because it's not free. In case they play pawn to d6, which is the top played move, well, now you go knight d5, asking them to take your free pawn once again, which they don't do. They all go knight takes d5, as you can see. Now you simply take with your bishop. They play c6. Now you go queen d4. If queen g5, stopping the checkmate, you first of all go pawn to f4, buying time on black's queen. And let's say queen h6, you know that your bishop is dying. So before taking black's bishop, you first of all play an in-between move, bishop takes f7 check. At least you walk away with a pawn. So position is equal according to Stockfish, even though you have a lead in development and many open lines with many attacking chances. So I would prefer being white in this position. So that's just an update that I wanted to add. Let's move on. Trap number 2 in the Scotch Gambit. So here's where you start with e4, then black plays e5. You go knight f3, attacking the pawn, knight c6, defending it, d4. This is still called the Scotch game. As you can see in the Legis database, e takes d4 is by far the top played move. Don't take, don't. Just go bishop c4. This is now called the Scotch Gambit because you gambited a pawn right here, right? So you will see your opponents playing bishop c5 or knight to f6 in this position. Let's start with bishop c5 first. Well, after bishop c5, I suggest that you gambit another pawn, sacrifice another pawn. You have no intention of getting that pawn back. So d takes c3, as you can see, is by far the top played move. And now this is when you can shake your opponent's eyeballs. How? By sacrificing your bishop on f7 check. The whole idea is to make black lose his right to castle, and before taking his bishop, you first of all give a check on h5. If king g8, that's when you are now going to take black's dark squared bishop with tempo, but here they are going to play g6. That's what everybody plays. And now that you have created these highlighted weaknesses on the king side, that's when you take the bishop with tempo. If d6, you just simply take back that pawn. In case of queen f6, defending their rook on h8, tip number 1, do not exchange your powerful queen with your opponent's less active queen. So don't do that. Go queen e3. Your queen is more active. They'll play bishop g4, and now you can go knight bd2. Next, you are going to castle short. Not that black cannot even castle short. They'll play the rest of the game with their king on the center. So you just delayed their development and messed up their pawn structure. Alright, so after playing bishop c5, gambiting a pawn on d4, the other move that you will see black playing apart from bishop c5 is knight to f6. Well, after this, again, I recommend that you sacrifice the second pawn on e4. So just castle short. The whole idea is after knight takes e4, taking your second free pawn. Now this time you can just pin that knight to the king, and of course they are going to play d5. Don't resign. You just go bishop takes d5 because that pawn was free. I mean, after queen takes d5, you just go knight c3, which looks impossible because now black cannot take on c3. You take their free queen on d5. So they all play queen a5, as you can see. And that's when you take this knight with your knight, not with your rook. You just want to do a little discovery. They all play bishop e6, but you can just go knight eg5, and the best that black can do is to give us back our pawn. So they need to castle long, allowing us to take on e6 with our knight, and after pawn takes, we take that pawn for free with our rook, hence equalizing material. But you're going to see most of your unprepared opponents, stingy opponents, playing queen d5, trying to hold on to their pawn. They don't want to lose a pawn, but hey, you can get back your pawn by capturing an innocent f7 pawn. So that's a temporal knight sacrifice. If king takes f7, the idea is to go knight g5 check, double attacking the king and the bishop. On the next move, you're going to capture the bishop. In case of rook e8, which they like doing, now you can simply take the free pawn on c7, double attacking the rook and the queen. And trust me, you're not going to lose your knight. They will take your rook, you take back, and then you can easily rescue your knight like this or this, I don't know, or this. Anyways, trap number 3 in the Philidor Defense. This will be great, you guys. So you start with e4 and then they go e5, knight f3, then d6. This is the Philidor Defense, one of my favorites anyway. So the way you play against the Philidor is you play in the Scotch Gambit style, beginning with d4, a pawn sacrifice, because you do not intend to take that pawn back immediately. So you go bishop c4. And one annoying thing that you will see most beginners doing is bishop g4. They have been told to pin knights whenever they are given a chance. But after this, I recommend that you just sacrifice another pawn, the second pawn. And as you can see, dc is by far the top played move, after which I recommend you now go queen b3, targeting the undefended b7 pawn and the f7 pawn. In case black counterattacks your e4 pawn, well, you just take the b7 pawn and everything is well defended. Plus, you are threatening to take the rook on a8. So that's just a little trap in the Philidor Defense. Now, let's say black plays the correct move, bishop e7 here, instead of playing bishop g4. So let's go bishop e7 is what everyone plays. Well, once again, I suggest you go c3, sacrificing your second pawn. And if dc, well, you can go queen b3, once again targeting the weak f7 pawn. And now it's difficult for black to defend this pawn, because if knight h6, you can simply mess up black's pawn structure on the king side. If bishop e6, just take that bishop, and on the next move, you don't take on e6 like what everybody does. You want to take that pawn with a knight. And let's say e5. The whole idea is to deflect black from the defense of the b7 pawn, and you're going to win a bigger piece. If queen c6, anyways, you just capture the rook, because at the end of the day, you're going to be an exchange up. So again, after bishop e7 and pawn to c3, if black doesn't take on c3 this time, allowing you to go queen b3, and let's say they go knight to f6, instead of taking, well, here I just recommend you go c takes d4, you get back that pawn. They don't want it. But if they take your e4 pawn, don't worry, you have queen b3 once again. If they castle short, you just go bishop d5, and you are assured of getting back your pawn in this position. Trap number 4 in the Smith-Morra Gambit. Now this looks like the Danish Gambit, except that it happens in the Sicilian defense where you gambit a pawn right away on d4. You don't want to take it back. The idea is to go c3, and after dc, that's when you take back the pawn. And as you can see in the Lichess database, everyone plays knight c6, you go knight f3. So when you're starting chess, you guys, the easiest is to see what people play, not what the engine is telling you to. No. Stockfish is going to ruin your chess career. That's a robot. So if they play d6, well, you can simply go bishop c4, and if they go knight to f6, now that's when you can play pawn to e5. If knight takes, you take back, because that was a blunder. If de, now black's queen is free, because the king has to take the bishop, and then we take the free queen. So that's just a little trap in the Smith-Morra Gambit. But hey, instead of knight takes e5, which is a blunder, black may take with his d pawn, but all the same, we can just take the queen first, and if king takes d8, we go for the f7 pawn. There's no proper way of defending this pawn. If bishop e6, the rook on h8 is dead. And all the same, after de and queen takes d8 check, instead of king takes d8, well, we go knight g5. This time they may take with their knight, but hey, just go knight b5. Now going for the c7 pawn this time. If rook b8, you go knight takes e5. That was a free pawn. If s6, this can even be met in one. If pawn to e6, you go bishop f4. You still want to go knight c7 check. If bishop b4 check, your king is very safe on f1. In case they try to castle short, well, that is a mistake, because you can now go knight d3, and here you are assured of winning one free piece. But not too fast. Let me show you what you shouldn't play in the Smith-Morra Gambit. Well, there is this line where black can play the famous Siberian trap when you start with the Smith-Morra Gambit. Again, knight c6 is the top played move. You go knight to f3, and this time instead of pawn to d6, they play pawn to e6, which is the top played move according to the Lichess database. So e6, well, black in this position is waiting for you to play the top played move bishop c4, after which they are going to play queen c7. And now if you play the top played move castle short, they'll play knight to f6. They want to play the Siberian trap. So they are waiting for you to go queen e2, and that's when they go knight g4 for whatever reasons. Maybe they have plans to go h5, open up the h file, and mate on h2 someday. So if you make a mistake and play pawn to h3, which is a big blunder, you guys, black is winning whether you like it or not. From here, they have this sneaky move, knight d4, attacking your queen. And please note that you can't take back the knight because they are going to mate you on h2. So this is called the Siberian trap, you guys. Even if you don't take on d4, and let's say you rescue your queen somehow, they'll first of all take your knight on f3 with check, and regardless of what you do here, queen takes or pawn takes, there's still gonna be a mate on h2. So you need to be aware of this Siberian trap. Just don't play queen e2 in this position. So after you castle short and black plays knight to f6, instead of going queen e2, I suggest that you take advantage of this b5 square and play knight b5 immediately. Don't ever think of going queen e2 in the Smith-Morra Gambit, just to be safe. So the top played move is queen b8. That's what they play. Now you go pawn to e5. The idea is if knight takes e5, well, now you can take that free knight. How is that free? Well, it is free somehow because if queen takes e5, you can chase that rook. And after queen b8, which is the top played move, now you play a silent move, queen d4. Looks like you're doing nothing, but after s6, the top played move again, you can simply go bishop f4, and now black's queen is dead. Let me show you the last line in the Smith-Morra Gambit. So you played e4 and then c5 by black, d4, cd, c3, and dc. So again, you take back, they all played knight c6. You go knight f3, and instead of d6, they play the top played move, pawn to e6. Now, instead of going bishop c4, the move I recommend in this position is pawn to e5, taking away the d6 and the f6 square. So you're making it hard for black to develop their knight. So most of the times you're going to see them developing their king's knight on e7. So to do this, they begin with the move bishop b4 first, because they want to develop their knight and castle short. So you go bishop d3 as if nothing is happening. So now they go knight g e7, and then you just castle short here. The moment you see them castling short, just know this is a blunder, because now you can simply sacrifice your bishop on h7, and after king takes, you go knight g5 check. If king g8, you already know this trap, you guys. They may try rook e8, but you have queen h7 check. If king f8, you go queen h8 check. If knight g8, you have knight h7 check, king e7, bishop g5, and there is nothing that black can do to stop this mate. I mean, they can even try knight f6 here, but you just take that knight and mate on the next move. Yes, chess can be that simple. Well, after they castle short, and then you sacrifice your bishop on h7, then king takes and knight g5. This time they might not go back to g8. They may play something like king g6, but in the Smith-Morra Gambit, you guys, forget about touching your queen at this stage. Queen c2 check, queen d3, or queen g4 doesn't work in the Smith-Morra Gambit. Just know that. So I suggest you go knight e2. That's what works. Next, you want to go knight f4 check and mate black on the next move. So they are going to play knight d5, stopping knight to f4. But hey, you have knight g3 first. Now you want to go queen h5 check, and that will be mate. So they play rook h8, and this is when you can go queen d3 check, because you have so many pieces on the king side. That's the difference because of this knight on g3. So if pawn to f5, you take with ampersand, and that's discovery check, by the way. If king takes f6, you go queen f3 check. If king g6, you're going to mate black like this. So black has to play king e7, and then you keep on hunting the queen until you find a way of mating black or winning his queen. There's always a way of winning black's queen in this line. Back to our Smith-Morra Gambit starting position, where you just play knight to f3. Again, the top played move for black on move 5 is pawn to e6 right in this position. So once again, don't go bishop c4. Just to avoid the Siberian trap, again I recommend the move pawn to e5, taking away the d6 and the f6 square. So the other idea of playing pawn to e5 on move 6, if black doesn't play bishop b4, is to go bishop f4. For example, in case black plays s6 or even d5, you just go bishop f4. And if knight g e7, the top played move, yeah, they want to put their knight on g6, you just go bishop d3. If knight g6, you go bishop g3, bishop e7. Now they want to castle short. That's when you start your king side pawn storm. You want to go h5 next. If they play pawn to h5, there will be all sorts of weaknesses on the king side. So queen a5 is the top played move, as you can see. The idea is if you go pawn to h5, they can simply rescue their knight by taking on e5. So you defend your e5 pawn 3 times, and if h5, you simply castle short. b5, you go bishop takes g6, messing up their pawn structure on the king side. And on the next move, you are assured of planting one of your knights on g5 and maybe win the g6 pawn in the near future. So this should be good for you. Trap number 5 in the French defense. So you start with e4, then black plays e6, d4, d5. Then you go pawn to e5, the advanced variation. Then from here, black will only be playing the top played moves. That's the beauty of this trap, you guys, and I love it so much. So after c5, you can see the top played move. You can go c3. The top played move is knight c6. So that goes together with knight to f3. If queen b6, you can see that black is putting more pressure on your d4 pawn 3 times. So I suggest you go bishop d3, blocking your queen's vision on the d4 pawn so that you sacrifice your pawn indirectly. There's a trap that French players always try to avoid here. After playing bishop d3, indirectly sacrificing your d4 pawn, they don't want to take on d4 right away. because if you take back and knight takes, you may end up winning their queen for free with this little discovery bishop b5 check, and their queen is going to die anyways. So because of this, they first of all start with bishop d7, blocking the upcoming check in advance so that now they can safely take your pawn on d4. So this is why you want to sacrifice your first d4 pawn by simply ignoring it, let them take, and then you take back. If knight takes, you take back with your knight. And please note that here they can just take back your knight because you don't have bishop b5 check this time. You won't be able to win their queen. That's why they played bishop d7. Anyways, just continue with knight c3, sacrificing your second pawn on e5. Note that it is not defended, but the whole idea is to develop your king's rook with tempo. There are some tactics to remember here, you guys. If queen d4, for example, which is a bad move, now you play the unexpected rook takes e6 check. The whole idea is to win black's queen after something like bishop takes e6, and that's when you go bishop b5 check. That will win the black queen. If fg, instead of bishop takes e6, let's say pawn takes, again you can just go bishop g6 check and you win black's queen on d4. So clearly queen d4 is out of the equation. If queen d6, I suggest you go knight b5 attacking the queen. They all go queen b6 as you can see. Now you go bishop e3 attacking their queen, and if bishop c5, which is what they all play, now you take that poor bishop, let them take with their queen because you have rook c1 attacking the queen, and on the next move you're going to win the free rook on a8. Knight c7 is checked, by the way, you guys. Anyways, so we've looked at queen d4 and queen d6. If black plays queen b8, well, now you can just take back one pawn, bishop d6, go pawn to h3. You can't afford to lose another pawn. Knight e7. They want to castle short, but that's a blunder because you can simply take like this, and on the next move you want to delay their castling. And here you can see the top played move is castle short. Black doesn't care about this move because they know you won't win their rook. They have bishop f6. But you can simply prove them wrong by going the other way, wanting to mate on h7. So they'll be forced to give up, and this is one move they're not going to see at all. So this is just how you can sacrifice 2 pawns in the French defense and still be able to emerge with a better position. Trap number 6 in the Ponziani opening. Well, this is where you start with e4, they play e5, you go knight f3, knight c6, pawn to c3, the Ponziani opening, and here the top played move is knight f6, others play bishop c5, but over 1 million black players go pawn to d6. They believe pawn to d6 is just solid enough and a stable way of playing chess. They are paving way for their light squared bishop. Well, after this, I suggest you just go bishop e2, and if knight to f6, black develops his knight in the way of attacking your e4 pawn, well, I suggest you just ignore that and play pawn to d4. And it doesn't matter what black does here, taking with a pawn or with the knight. Let's say e takes d4, the top played move, well, you simply take back. And here you can see the top played move again is knight takes e4. They think that is a free pawn, but well, you just go pawn to d5, and on the next move you're going to win a free knight on e4. Let's say bishop d7, you just take the knight. So you didn't really sacrifice 2 pawns, but you gave up 2 pawns for this position to occur. Anyways, trap number 7, I call this the lazy man's Stanton Gambit. So this is where you start with d4. I play this in bullet and blitz, not in classical games or standard games or rapid. So this works against the Dutch defense. Pawn to f5. I recommend you go pawn to e4. This is called the Stanton Gambit. If f takes e4, now you play f3, sacrificing your second pawn. And if e takes f4, this is still fine according to Stockfish. Stockfish wants you to take with your knight, but not me. I suggest you just go pawn to c3 very quickly, allowing black to double attack your bishop and your rook, hence taking your third pawn. Again, Stockfish wants you to take that pawn and you'll be slightly okay, but not me. I want you to go bishop d3, giving up your rook for free. Let them promote into a terminator if they want, because now you have queen h5 check, and on the next move you're going to mate your opponent in this way. So that's just a dirty trap that I wouldn't recommend in serious matches, but it works. After bishop d3, black may not take your h1 rook. They may play something like knight h6 if they are using their brain or the engine's brain. Well, I recommend you just take that knight. You still want to mate like this. If pawn to d5, you go queen h5 check anyways. King d7 is bad because you're just going to end up being better in this position. Position is like plus 3.4 in favor of white. So black doesn't have to play king d7 in this position. They have to go pawn to g6. And now you can simply sack your bishop once again and try to look for counterplay. Let them take your bishop because you can take their e5 pawn, and anytime soon you can try to castle long, put your king to safety, and just see what you can do here. Knight to f3. Anyways, this is all for today, you guys. I hope you enjoyed watching this video. If at all you did, be sure to hit the like button, subscribe to my channel if at all you haven't already. I know that's irritating. You don't like me reminding you to subscribe to my channel, but when you read the YouTube guidelines, you guys, YouTube does encourage content creators like me to remind my viewers to subscribe, because other people just come here for fun. They just watch, enjoy the video and forget about it. It's easy to forget to do the needful sometimes. So it's not much of a stretch. When my YouTube channel reaches 100,000 subscribers, you won't see me reminding you to subscribe, because most people will be subscribing based on my numbers, and I have linked a playlist that will help you to improve chess as well as your tactical vision in the comment section down below, so you can take advantage of that. There are many videos that you haven't watched which I have created for you guys. You just don't know about that. So check out my playlist in the comment section down below. Hope to see you soon in my next video. Until next time, bye bye.